You just accelerated. You hit pay a few seconds faster than you planned. Not because the product got better, not because new data appeared, but because a single brief line appeared in the interface. Only 2 left in stock. You saw it for a split second. That was sufficient. The product is the same, the price is the same, the description and reviews haven't changed. It isn't the product that changed, it's your decision-making mode. In that moment, choice stopped being a comparison. It became a reaction to a potential loss. No one is physically rushing you, but the environment just changed your speed. How does a simple availability indicator shift your thinking from analysis to urgency? The switch happens almost instantly. First, you read the specs. Then your gaze locks onto the scarcity indicator, the color, the digit, the short phrase. Within fractions of a second, your brain interprets this as a risk signal. A sequence is triggered: attention lock, loss threat assessment, and prioritization of an accelerated decision. This isn't a conscious process, it's automated processing. Crucially, it isn't your mood that changes, it's your objective. In normal mode, you operate within the logic of comparison. In scarcity mode, you operate within the logic of preservation. These are different cognitive trajectories. Analysis requires alternatives. Loss prevention requires action. The scarcity indicator reroutes you from the first trajectory to the second. From there, compressed time takes over. Even if there's no visible timer, the brain begins to act as if time is running out. You don't see a stopwatch, but you feel the constraint. In behavioral economics, this phenomenon is called perceived scarcity. It isn't about the actual warehouse, it's about perceived limitation. When availability decreases, value increases. However, this isn't a rise in objective value, but a rise in priority. This specific option becomes psychologically more important than the alternatives. The second layer is loss aversion. A potential loss is perceived more intensely than an equivalent gain. This means the fear of missing out outweighs the satisfaction of acquiring. This is why the brain accelerates. It's not that you lose rationality, it's that your risk assessment system activates faster than your comparison system. An evaluation shift occurs. You stop looking for reasons why you should buy and start looking for reasons why you cannot afford to miss out. In an unstable environment, this response is functional. The digital environment has simply learned to trigger this mode with a short signal. Once the signal appears, your context narrows. You switch between tabs less frequently. You analyze fewer alternatives. You shorten your cycle of doubt. The internal question changes. It's no longer, is this the best option? It becomes, can I secure this option in time? This is called cognitive tunneling. Your context collapses onto a single object. Alternatives don't disappear, but they temporarily lose priority, not because they are worse, but because the current option is now perceived as vulnerable. Uncertainty adds another layer. When you aren't sure how much time is left, the brain reduces verification. It prefers action over further checking because checking now feels costly. Consider a different scenario. You're choosing a tier for an online service. You're comparing plans, reading the fine print, and checking the features. Suddenly, under your chosen plan, it appears only 5 discounted licenses remaining. The price hasn't changed, the features are identical. Now the offer feels temporary. You spend less time studying the details and return to the confirmation button faster. Why? Because scarcity added a temporal dimension. The decision is no longer just about value, it's about availability over time. Even if you rationally understand there might be more discounts later, the fact of the limit changes your rhythm. You stop thinking in terms of worth it, not worth it, and start thinking in terms of will I make it, will I miss it? Another example, same mechanism. You're picking a room or a flight. You're checking terms, switching dates, and verifying cancellation policies. Next to your choice, a short note appears, limited availability. Sometimes there's no number. Sometimes there's no explanation, and that is sufficient. Why does a vague warning work? Because the brain dislikes uncertainty. When it isn't clear how much is left, risk is perceived as higher. Consequently, your strategy shifts towards speed. In the digital environment, caution often manifests as acceleration because a fast choice feels like a way to neutralize risk. In a physical store, you can observe scarcity directly. In the digital environment, you only see a model of availability.
The indicator can be generated based on warehouse levels, batch size, region, a specific price category, or time window. As a user, you only see the final signal. You don't see the full distribution structure. The indicator doesn't necessarily mean a global shortage. It represents a limit within a specific display logic. The behavioral effect doesn't depend on the data source. It depends on the perception of scarcity. The form of the signal is critical. Short text, a compact digit, perhaps a color highlight. It's not a detailed explanation. It's an attention trigger designed to be processed instantly, even in peripheral vision. It's not information for analysis. It's a marker of risk. The key element of this mechanism is speed. Scarcity itself doesn't change the product specifications. It changes the time horizon of the decision. In the offline world, there is distance between evaluation and purchase. In the online world, that distance is minimal. The scarcity indicator is placed near the action button or near the price, the areas where your eyes naturally return before confirming a purchase. The risk signal and the action occupy the same visual field. This compresses the pause. Speed becomes a built-in parameter of the choice architecture, and speed determines the depth of analysis. The faster the cycle, the less time available for comparison. Often, a person doesn't even realize they've stopped comparing. They simply decide and rationalize the choice afterward. Even if you understand the mechanism, the reaction can still occur. Scarcity signals are processed at a faster level than rational evaluation. Human cognition evolved to respond quickly to vanishing resources. The digital environment replicates the structure of that signal. Awareness introduces a pause, but it does not eliminate the initial reaction, and that is normal. The objective is not to suppress the feeling. The objective is to detect the shift in decision mode before the action is completed. Control begins with recognition. Step 1. Identification. Notice the moment of the shift. When your internal rhythm accelerates, that is your signal. Step 2. The pause. Create an artificial delay. Even 60 seconds changes the depth of your analysis. If possible, leave the tab and return later. This interrupts the short decision cycle. Step 3. Value audit. Ask yourself, if this indicator weren't here, would the value remain the same? Would I buy this right now? Step 4. Context expansion. Return to the alternatives. Restore your field of comparison. Allow yourself to see the market, not just one object. The point is not to ignore scarcity. Sometimes resources are genuinely limited. The point is to recognize the moment when limitation attempts to redirect your information processing. The product remains the same. The price remains the same. The indicator only changes your speed. When you recognize that shift, speed loses its authority over your decision, and the choice becomes yours again.